Okay, so our super uptight president, Glenn, said, you just stand up there and you start the meeting. Like, okay. I'm Janet Lane, and I'm the second vice president for membership. And I schedule the meetings and the speakers, and I'm so happy to have all of you here. First announcement is our Raincatchers annual plant sale. They have been working tirelessly, and they appreciate everyone that's been gathering their plants for the sale. And it is Thursday, May 1st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. right here. So please come, donate what you have, and it will be a great fundraiser for all of us. So today, our speaker is Nathan May. And I heard Nathan at a garden club, and several of you have heard Nathan speak. He's with the Trinity River Audubon Center. Can I get a show of hands of anyone who's heard Nathan speak over here? Great, so we have, yeah, that's good. Nathan is a conservation educator. He's a certified master naturalist as of 2023. He is so busy with all your field trips with Audubon Society, yeah. In the past, he's been a sales associate at Redenta's. He was a lights out intern at Texas Conservation Alliance, summer conservation educator at the John Bunker Sands Wetland Center in Seagoville. And he speaks on many topics, including bugs, that's not on there, gardening for birds with the native plants, frogs of the Metroplex, and the wonders of Texas grass. And today he's speaking about native grasses with a twist, and his topic is 420, Grass Celebration, the Wonders of Grass, and Why We Love to Blaze It. So with that, let's welcome Nathan with a big round.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. Yes, as Janet said, my name is Nathan. I'm so happy to be here with y'all today. I see plenty of familiar faces. I wanted to first dive in a little bit about what the Trinity River Audubon Center is, a little bit about its history. Can I see a show of hands for who's been out there before? All right, most of us, great. So you probably know the gist, but maybe you'll get a little bit of fun extra context as to what we do. Won't spend too long on it. So we're a nature center located just 10 miles south of downtown Dallas. We are sort of seen as the gateway to explore the Great Trinity Forest, which is the big 6,000 acre forest that we have here in Dallas. We have miles of trails and over 100 acres that are part of our center itself. I'm glad lots of y'all have come out and enjoyed those trails before. And we're a part of the National Audubon Society, which some of y'all might know about, some of y'all might not. It's a big, over a century-old nonprofit dedicated to protecting birds and the places they need for today and tomorrow. So our mission is to be a part of that larger mission by restoring natural ecosystems, focusing on birds and wildlife and native plants for the benefit of humanity and birds, because where birds thrive, people prosper. And so you might know us as, like Janet was mentioning, we're a field trip destination. We have kids out all the time, especially during the busy season right now. Pretty much every day of the week, we have kids out to learn about our ecosystem here in the Dallas area. We're also a birder's paradise, and we're a free nature center for Dallas to enjoy. We've got almost 250 species of bird that have been documented at our place. So if you're into birds and bird watching, we're a great place to come see them. And we also have some other things that you might not know as much about, sort of maybe more behind the scenes for us plant nerds. We're also a wedding venue and an event venue, so people will rent us out. Maybe anyone know anyone who's been married at the Audubon Center? Anyone? No, that's all right. I was surprised one time some people from my college in Oklahoma just showed up to my work at the end of the day, and I was like, am I dreaming right now? What's happening? And it was because they were getting married there. It's also an architectural teaching tool. Believe it or not, we're actually designed by a pretty hotshot famous architect, so it's not just nature nerds that come out. We have architecture students who come out to learn about architecture from our building, as well as sometimes just architects come out for fun out of professional curiosity. And we're also a meeting hub for North Texas nature and conservation groups. Over, I see 50 here, conservation organizations held meetings at TRAC in 2022, from things like the Master Naturalist to the Texas Stream Team to all sorts of stuff in between. But we weren't always that way. And some of you guys probably know about that. We're this wonderful, wonderful place now, but it wasn't always this urban oasis of nature and wildlife. We used to be a dump. And we weren't just a dump, we were an illegal dump. And we weren't just an illegal dump, we were the biggest illegal dump in Texas history. So there was so much trash where the Audubon Center is now that if you stacked it up on a normal city block, it would be taller than the Empire State Building. Yeah, a ton of trash. And it was right next to a neighborhood. And they said, enough is enough. You know, we're tired of being the trash can for the rest of Dallas, especially when this is clearly against the laws of Texas and against the laws of the United States, but the city's kind of turning a blind eye to it, letting it happen anyways. So they organized, they fought really hard for years, and they eventually were able to turn that around. They were able to sue the city and the landowners of the dump, and part of what happened after this was it got cleaned up and they had to decide what to do with it. And they took it from something that was an environmental hazard. This dump would catch on fire, putting chemicals in the air that was giving everybody lung problems. Sometimes these fires would last over a month. One time they were trying to put out a fire and they accidentally cut a sewage line while they were doing it. So not only was there the trash burning, but there was also just thousands of gallons of sewage leaking out. So they took this environmental hazard, something that was hurting the community, hurting the local ecosystem, right by our Trinity River that 13 million people depend on for water, and they turned it into an environmental asset. They made it into this nature center where it's a place the community can come enjoy for free. We've got this free admission right now for everybody, but it's always been free for the zip code that it's located in. And it's also something that's good for the local ecosystem, good for the humans and the other animals, good for the plants, and it's a place for us to connect to our local ecosystem, which is underrated. A lot of people don't realize that there's so much cool nature out here in DFW. You can see here, I love that picture. That's the neighbors that organized together to get the dump cleaned up. And so we're 15 years into it now. It was a dump in the 80s and 90s, and then they started cleaning up in 97, 99, and 2008 we opened. As of May 2018, we'd had over 150,000 students that have benefited from interactive nature education programming. And in January 2023, we were able to make admission to the center free for everybody. It's a pilot program, and it's currently good through this summer. So if any of y'all know any people with a lot of money that want to give it to us to keep it free, we'd love to keep it going. And since we've made it free, we've had 3 times the amount of visitors. So we're really glad we've been able to do that so far. I also wanted to share just a little bit about some of the cool stuff we've got, some of the wildlife that has returned since we've restored this land and planted all these native plants. Is anyone here, who here is familiar with iNaturalist? The app iNaturalist? Okay, lots of hands going up. I'm glad I asked this, because just a reminder, this weekend is the City Nature Challenge. And so if you're on iNaturalist, make sure you use it this weekend, because last year San Antonio beat us, and I don't want that to happen this year. So that's just a competition that goes on where people can observe any living thing they see using the app iNaturalist, and hundreds of cities across the world compete. Last year, DFW was 6th place in the world, so we do a pretty good job. We've got a pretty strong community here. But you can see here, these are different species that people have come out and taken pictures of and uploaded at the Audubon Center. These are some of the most common ones here. So there's a lot of diversity. People have documented over 1,700 different species. And that's just the species that people thought to take out their phone and take a picture of and upload. So it's a really wonderful place, and I'm happy to be here. Maybe you recognize some of the plants on here, things that might even be in your garden. Maybe you've planted some partridge pea or some paintbrush. Yeah, we got lots of wonderful stuff. And then there's just a picture of us having a good time, doing what we do, teaching from a class recently that took some pictures and sent them to us. So it's a wonderful place. Want to make sure y'all knew a little bit about the Audubon Center before we dove in. But the topic for today isn't just the history of track, it is grass. Before we get into grass, anyone have any questions about the Audubon Center? Might be on their head? Just want to make sure. Oh, yes?
Did the grass we plant, did it last?
For, the Big Chapter Project?
Yeah.
It's doing great. It is doing wonderful. We got a lot of rain right afterwards. And so that spot is looking really good. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Yeah, the North Texas Master Naturalists came out for their Big Chapter Project this year. I know there's a lot of people who were in both groups. We planted 300 plants on that day, so that was wonderful. And they're doing great. Wonderful question. All right, well, for this presentation today, talking about the wonders of Texas grass, y'all are a little bit in luck. See, it's a couple days late, but I figured it was close enough that you can get the more unhinged and more fun version of this presentation, the version of this presentation that makes people say, Nathan, your boss lets you do this? So here is the 420 grass celebration, the wonders of grass and why we love to blaze it. And you might have realized this year, 420, we had a bit of a 2-for-1. It was also Easter, so a bit of a blaze it, praise it situation going on. And so you can see our friend the Easter Bunny is hiding there. And you might see him a few more times hiding on different slides, or some Easter eggs that he's hidden around on the different slides. So you can keep your eye out for that. All right, so when most people think of grass, they think of this. And they're not wrong. That is definitely grass, no doubt. But that right there is grass that is being forced to conform to the society's rules that it's put down on it, cut down by the man every time it tries to grow up more and more, being forced to grow and then not being allowed to flourish fully. So while yes, this is grass, we're not just going to be talking about this today. We're going to be talking about grass as it wants to be. If you let it spread its wings and fly. We're going to be talking about grass when it's liberated. First, though, we should be in agreement on what is grass. So here's a little bit of a breakdown. It's in the plant kingdom. It's in the vascular plants phylum, and it is in the subphylum of flowering plants. A lot of people don't realize this. I mean, I know I'm here with some plant people today, so y'all might not be as shocked as other people are by this, but grass is a flowering plant. It has these flowering structures, and they might not be big roses, but they are beautiful in their own right. So here's my favorite grass right here, and you can see that little orange part's going to be the male part of the flower, and that little fuzzy bit's going to be the female part of the flower, which gets its pollen on there to produce the seeds. Here's another example of a cool one from some eastern gamma grass. That's the female part, these beautiful purple spindly things coming out of it. And here's some on some big blue stem where you can see that orange male part as well as the purple female parts. It's smaller on that one right there too. So they've got some really beautiful flowers. I think if you're into macro photography, it's really cool if you look close at these grass flowers when they're blooming. They're in the flowering plants, and then you go a little bit deeper, and they are in the family Poaceae. That's the grass family, which is in the order Poales, I think. I don't know if I said that right. Grass-like plants, though. It's in the grass-like plants, which includes grasses, but also some other guys that look a lot like grasses to the untrained eye, but technically aren't. You might know some of these. Sedges and rushes are two great examples of grass-like plants that technically aren't part of the cool kid club. They're not full-on grasses. When it comes to telling these apart, there's some ways that you can do it. I'll teach you some. The first one I'm going to say might make some of you guys mad, so I'll just say right now, it's not a rule. This is kind of a tendency. This is something I've kind of noticed, but there are so many exceptions to this, so you can't only rely on this. But when I'm first looking at something in the field, if I'm in a sunny spot and I see a grass-like plant, I'm first thinking, oh, this might be a grass. I'll look closer at that. If I'm in the field and I see something in a shady spot, my first thought is, maybe this is a sedge. I'll look and see if it's a sedge. And if I'm looking in a wet spot, growing out of the water, I'm thinking, this might be a rush. I'm going to look and see if it's a rush. Because that's sort of the most common way I see those threes, but it's not at all always the case. There's so many exceptions. I'm sure you can think of some right off the top of your head. So a more reliable way is this beautiful, beautiful poem. Maybe some of you have heard before. I'll recite it for you, then maybe we can all recite it together and give ourselves some snaps. Sedges have edges, rushes are round, grasses have nodes all the way to the ground. So first I'll break that down a bit. If you feel a sedge along the stem, you're going to feel these sort of sharp edges on it. If you find a rush, it's just going to be a very round guy. I think that horsetail reed over there might be a rush. And then we've also got grasses. Grasses, their central stems are going to have these little bumps all along the stems, all the way to the ground, and those are the nodes. So if you would all join me, let's recite this beautiful poem together. Sedges have edges, rushes are round, and grasses have nodes all the way to the ground. Give yourself some snaps, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So if you've gone through this rhyme, you've looked at your plant, you found those nodes all the way to the ground, then you should be excited because you have found a member of the coolest family of plants. You have found a grass. You have found one of the 11,000 species of grass that we have on this planet. My favorite type of plant is a native grass. They are found on every single continent. You might have been thinking I was going to say except Antarctica, because that's what people normally say, but no, grasses are even on Antarctica. There are 2 species of flowering plants found on Antarctica proper, and one of them is Antarctic hairgrass. Major W for the best plant family. Grasses, they have this sort of normal structure. There's a basic structure of a grass, but there's so much diversity and variety within that structure. So many variations on the theme of grass. They can be really short, like buffalo grass. Some of you guys might know buffalo grass. That's a cool native grass that people use a lot of times in a turf context. You'll find it at parks, soccer fields, and lawns. Last place I live, I moved in and I was really pumped that I had native buffalo grass. Was my lawn right there. So that's a really short one. It usually doesn't get more than a foot high. But it can also get really tall. We can have switchgrass, which gets taller than my very tall coworkers, Jake and Marcus, if you've ever met them. This guy can get up to 10 feet tall. And that's only half the story when we're looking at these grasses, because their roots can go down really deep too in the right conditions. Even that buffalo grass, in the right conditions and the right soils for it, They've measured buffalo grass roots going down 6 feet into the ground. With switchgrass, they've measured it going down even further, and that's where a lot of the magic happens with grasses. We'll talk some more about it later. Grass is the foundation of Dallas's ecosystem. It's the foundation of our ecosystem. For 10,000 years, the Blackland Prairie made up 12 million acres of Texas. A lot of y'all are probably familiar. That purple strip right there, that's the Blackland Prairie. That's where Dallas County is. That's where we are. And grass was the basis of this. We had so many wonderful flowers that bloom around here in this community, but it was primarily made up of grass. You know, you can't say something's a forest if there's not trees. You can't call it the prairie if there's not grasses. And this was providing food and shelter and the means of life for all of the wonderful creatures that called this place home. And the reason they've been able to do this, reason it's been able to be maintained, even with people around, is because people knew the secret to living in harmony with the Blackland Prairie was blazing it. So here we see, this is Jake, my supervisor. If you know him, it's funnier. But we've got some grass burning behind him. And for thousands of years, 10,000 years, people have lived in this area. 10,000 years, the Blackland Prairie has existed. So a lot of times, people will tell me when they're getting stressed about the state of the world, how bad things are, the collapse of biodiversity, fun stuff like this. I'll hear people refer to humans as an invasive species in our ecosystem. And I understand where they're coming from, but I want to push back on that a little bit, because when we look at our ecosystem here, the Blackland Prairie, there have been people in the Blackland Prairie for the whole time there's been the Blackland Prairie. One of the differences is we've just changed our relationship to the rest of the ecosystem. And I think when people are remembering their role in nature, remembering their role in the ecosystem, and they're giving to it and getting back from it, we don't have to be an invasive species. We can be a keystone species. In fact, the Blackland Prairie can't survive without human intervention, especially today, thanks to these prairies and prescribed burns. And here's some of the benefits of blazing it. So when we set these prescribed fires, which we still do today and which indigenous people practice for thousands of years, this has a lot of benefits to the prairie. This can reduce the risk of larger, more dangerous fires. This is something that's a hot topic in the news a lot, especially with the fires that keep happening in California in recent years. If we don't allow the prairie to burn, then there's sort of buildup of growth, and then when the fires do come, they're bigger, they're more intense, they can be more dangerous. But if there's a regular burn every year or two, then stuff isn't getting that dangerous. These fires are also going to clear away encroaching woody growth to keep the prairie a prairie. If y'all remember succession from biology class in school, the prairie a lot of times is sort of working to become a forest, especially in Dallas. If there's not fire, then eastern red cedars start popping up, but fire can take those out pretty quickly. They're pretty susceptible to fire. And so if we want to keep the prairie ecosystem and all the wildlife that depends on it intact, fire is a great way to do that, to keep it from becoming forest. Well, the forest isn't awesome too in its place. When indigenous people set fire to the prairie, this also attracted bison to come graze the new growth. So that was an important benefit that they got out of it. The bison would love the new little green growth that was coming up from this grass, and then bison were a great source of food for thousands of years all over America. A lot of seeds depend on fire to help them germinate. This helps, sort of like a scarification kind of deal, helps these seeds get ready to come up in the ground faster. So a lot of plants were dependent on this fire ecosystem. Also, when you look at prairies that aren't being regularly burned versus prairies that are being burned, ones that are getting burned regularly have a lot less ticks. And if you're someone that runs around in the prairie a lot like me, that's a good thing. I also give the system a bit of a reset, which can increase diversity. Rather than just one grass, maybe it's doing really good the last couple years, taking over. If you have that fire come in, then that gives other stuff a chance to come up and have a little bit of time in the sun. Oh, and here I put this in kind of just to brag. One time I got to help with the prescribed burn, and it was lots of fun. There's me with the fire torch. This was, I don't know if any of y'all have met John Wiltz, but at John Wiltz Farm, he invited me out to help with the prescribed burn with Texas Parks and Wildlife one time. Look how cool I am with my gloves. I'm about to put out the fire with my hand. Yeah! So that was super fun. We actually can't do this at the Trinity River Audubon Center. Does anybody have a guess why? City code, and specifically because we were a dump. So since there's still a bunch of trash, we covered it up properly, but there's still methane coming up. And the methane and fire, they mix too good sometimes. And so sadly, we're not able to do prescribed burns. I'm hopeful that one day maybe that'll come around, but as of right now, we can't. So we have to use other things to sort of mimic this. Sometimes it's just mowing or mimicking grazing, but it does make it harder to maintain a healthy prairie when we're not able to use this important tool. An important part when we're thinking about prescribed burns is just to keep in mind that humans are a part of nature, whatever nature is. The ecosystem is counting on us to actively participate, just like all the other organisms do. And I know you guys know this since you're the master gardeners, so I'm preaching to the choir here. Y'all get it. Y'all are always making that conscious decision to actively participate in that ecosystem. And thank you guys for that, because there's so many people who don't even think of doing this. And so I'm always inspired when I see people like you who are so dedicated to that. Because when we help the ecosystem, when we help grasses, they give us so much in return. Grasses are taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen, what we need to breathe. They're also, when they take in that carbon dioxide, they're putting it in the soil. And when they're putting this carbon dioxide in the soil, that's helping to prevent and to fight climate change. So they're a climate solution right there. They're also lessening flooding and stopping erosion. These roots that are down in the ground. Like I said, there's so much of the magic. They're helping to sequester carbon, but they're also holding the ground in place. And they're acting like a sponge when these storms come. So when a storm comes, if we have a good, healthy prairie, good, healthy wetland, something with these good, healthy grass ecosystems, then those will absorb a lot of that water before it's able to flood our communities. It'll also hold the land in place. If you come to the Trinity River Audubon Center and you go to the river, you'll see the overlook. The river's just constantly eroding it back and back and back, but there's this one switchgrass. It's still standing its ground. It's holding on tight, and you can see the roots, and so the land is sort of like where that switchgrass is. And so that's a great example of how it can prevent that erosion. Now that guy right there, hero. Oh, raise your hand, who here likes to eat grass?
Asparagus.
Okay, we got two. Don't be shy, we won't judge. I saw a lot of people didn't raise your hand, so I'm kind of surprised by that, because I would have guessed that most of you probably eat grass every day. Corn is grass. And even if you're not eating corn on the cob, so many of our snacks are made of corn. If you look at the ingredients in the grocery store, corn's in everything. Wheat that we make our bread from, that is grass. And we got oats in our oatmeal and our granola bars, that's grass. Beer and liquor made from barley, that's grass right there. Sugar, if it's corn syrup, corn is grass. If it's sugar cane, that's also grass. So we're eating grass all the time. It is a staple of the human diet. Rice too, I didn't put rice on there. That's a type of grass. So grass is so important to the economy and so important to human life. It's also pretty cool. I know some of you guys are probably concerned about, oh no, the pollinators are dying. I'm also very concerned about this. Keeps me up at night. But grass is mostly wind pollinated. So if we fail in our mission to save the pollinators, we can maybe still eat some bread at least. Grass isn't just food, it's also shelter. Some cool examples, the Caddo grass houses. The Caddo people lived in the Dallas area historically for thousands of years, and they built these really cool structures out of grass, these really cool permanent houses using the grasses of the Blackland Prairie. And this is a recreation of one by the Texas Historical Commission, provided this photo. It's so cool. And then also in Europe, in Norway, I got to see this one time when I went there. My grandpa was from Norway. They had the old houses, and you can still see them in rural areas. They'd have these sod roofs where they'd pack it tight with dirt, and grass would go on there, and that would help insulate the cabins and the houses in Norway where it gets very, very cold. So grass is food and grass is shelter, and it's not just for humans. Humans are one of many animals that depend on the grass. Grass is so important for wildlife too. Many birds nest in grasses on the ground. We think of them usually in trees, but there are so many grass nesting birds, and they really need our help, you guys. And birds also love eating the seeds of grass. This right here is the LeConte sparrow, a bird that is very, very much needing our help. It has lost more than 50% of its population in the past 50 years, and it really, really loves healthy little blue stem grasslands. And it's a bird that we're really hoping we can get to start nesting, or overwintering at least, at the Audubon Center in that spot where the master naturalists were planting those grasses. That's one of the birds we're doing it for. It's such a pretty little bird. And there's the LeConte sparrow. There's also the painted bunting. Painted bunting's favorite grass, according to what people tell me, is cup grass. And I believe it, because at Trinity River Audubon Center, we have a lot of cup grass, and we get a lot of painted buntings, and they'll come over and they'll eat the seeds from that. In this picture, it's eating a relative of cup grass. That one's invasive, though, but same genus. All right, no Easter eggs or no jokes on this slide. Grassland-dependent birds have declined by 43% since 1970. That's a lot. Grassland-dependent birds are doing the worst of any of our birds, specialist birds here in the area, and that's because grasses don't get all the love and respect they deserve. You know, not to say the other ecosystems are doing great, but at least the general public, if you go up to them and ask them, should we save that? And you point at a forest, they might at least think yes. There's a pretty good chance they'll be like, yeah, forests are good. But if you point at a grassland and say, should we save that? They'll say, that's just an empty field. There's nothing going on there. And that's not true at all. There are so many creatures that depend on these grasses, and there are birds that specifically need grassland ecosystems, like the LeConte sparrow, like quail, which are in a rapid decline, like meadowlarks, and they really need our help. So that's part of why I love to evangelize grass like this. And it's not just birds. I work for Audubon, so I got to talk about birds, but so many other things. We got the bison, we got grasshoppers, so many insects and bugs like grass skipper butterflies. A lot of these skippers, these fuzzy little butterflies you might see around your garden, when they're caterpillars, they're hosting on grass rather than like milkweed for a monarch butterfly. All right, hopefully I've convinced you good and well that grass is awesome and you're on the same page as me with that right now. I know that since we're some high-level plant people, I want to dive in a little bit on how to ID grass, because I know that can be the tricky part. A lot of times, even if you love grass as a concept, you'll look at it and you'll think, it all looks just like green grass to me. I don't know anything. There are over 11,000 species of grass, and over 100 of them can be found in Dallas County. You don't need to know all of them, but I'm going to introduce you to 7 as a starting point. I bet a lot of you already know some of these 7, and I think if you have a good grasp on these 7, it's a great place to start. But more importantly, I'm going to try to give you some tools to tell them apart. We're going to get a little bit into the botany and anatomy that hopefully y'all can appreciate, and hopefully that'll help you start looking a little closer at the grasses and seeing them a little bit differently. I'm going to start with the basic structure of a grass. We've got the main stems or the culms, and this main stem that goes up. So not the blades of grass, but the main stem. That's where the nodes are going to be, those little bumps. You can feel it on any grass you find. And at the top of that, you've got the inflorescence. And the inflorescence is the flowering structure. So this bit right here is the inflorescence. And if you're lucky, you can look at the inflorescence and know what grass you're looking at. You're not always going to be that lucky, but with some grasses, that's all you need to look at. With some grasses, you got to go a little deeper. You might need to look at this section here, the collar, which is where that last blade is coming up out of the main stem. And maybe if you're putting it on iNaturalist, you might want to get a good picture of this. You can see these little bits right here. And someone like Prairie Rambler on iNaturalist can come in and help you out to ID that. But for our purposes today, we'll be looking at grasses you can identify by the inflorescence, where when you look at this while it's blooming, you can tell what it is. And a pro tip, if you're taking pictures to try and figure out an ID, having some sort of measurement device can help. A ruler there to help see how long things are, because sometimes the difference between one species and another is like a couple millimeters of length on one of the flowering bits. So let's zoom in on that inflorescence. If we zoom in on that, we'll see a bunch of these spikelets. And if you zoom in on the spikelets, you'll see these florets. And these florets are those tiny little flowers I showed you guys in the beginning. And so if you can get a good picture, good look at this, and next time you're at some grasses, look for these structures, and that'll help you start to notice the differences between them. When we're looking at inflorescence, there are 3 types, and I'm about to quiz y'all on this a whole lot, so make sure you remember these 3 types. The 3 basic structures of grass inflorescence are a spike, a raceme, and a panicle. If you get really fancy, there's also compound versions where they combine 2 of the different kinds, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're going to worry about the 3 basic structures. Spike, I remember spike is simple, S, spike simple. That's where you've got the spikelets coming right out of the main stem. Then in the middle, the more complicated one is raceme. And raceme has these little branches before you get the spikelets. And then the most complicated, so complicated that you panic, is the panicle. The panicle has branches on branches. So you see, we've got these little branches like raceme, but then there's other branches with other spikelets coming out of it. So you got spike, simple, raceme, branches, panicle, branches on branches. Now I'm gonna, in a minute, go through some grasses, and as I introduce them to you, we're gonna appreciate them, talk about how cool they are, and then I'm gonna ask y'all which one of these you think they are. So burn this image into your head right now. When you look at this, it looks so simple. You're like, I get it, spike, raceme, panicle. But then when you look at grass in the field, it is not so simple anymore. All right, get to know 7 great grasses, the big 4 plus a few more. I'm gonna start off with Indian grass, sometimes called yellow prairie grass or prairie grass. I know they were trying to get that to take off a couple years ago. Not sure if it happened, but this is one of the big 4 grasses, one of the main 4 grasses of the tall grass prairie. It's also the state grass of Oklahoma, so if there are any Okies in here, you should feel pride when you see this grass. I think it's really beautiful ornamentally. I know I'm with some gardeners right now, so I really love the inflorescence. It's got this feathery sort of business up here, and it's one of the prettiest grasses. And if you look up here, zoomed in a little bit on the inflorescence, I want y'all to think for a second if it's a spike, a raceme, or a panicle. All right, raise your hand for spike. Raise your hand for raceme. All right, if he votes raceme, raise your hand for panicle. Yeah. This one is a panicle. And like I said, it's harder when you actually look in the field, but this one has little branches, and then it has branches on the branches. A lot of times panicles look kind of like a Christmas tree, and this one is kind of like a squeezed together one. But you're absolutely right. We got panicle right here. Next up, we got little blue stem. This is the one that sparrow loves, the LeConte sparrow. This is another one of the big four. Hopefully some of y'all have seen this or gardened with it before. I love big fields of this during the sunset when it's got its little fluffy inflorescence. It just lights up like snow. I think it's gorgeous. All right, what do you guys think for this one? Spike? Any votes for spike for this inflorescence? This one's kind of hard. Got a vote for spike? Anyone for raceme? A couple votes for raceme. All right, how about panicle? All right, I think a lot of us didn't vote on this one, so. This one is actually a raceme. So if you look really closely, there are little branches, and then you've got these little fuzzy bits. But this was a hard one for sure. Next is big blue stem. We had little blue stem, now we got big blue stem. Another one of the big four. This one's called the king of the prairie. This is a grass that cows love. And one thing that can be bad about that is if you're overgrazing your land, if you got too many cows on not enough land, then they'll eat up all the big blue stem so aggressively that it won't get the chance to come back. But if you've got an appropriate amount of cattle or bison on your land, then it'll keep coming back and it'll just be like ice cream to them. Delicious stuff. Sometimes this is called turkey foot because if you look at the inflorescence, it's got those 3 little bits coming out. Looks like a turkey foot. Alrighty, how about this one? What do we think? Spike? Got to vote for spike? How about raceme? Couple votes for raceme. And how about panicle? I see 1 vote for panicle. This one is raceme. Good job, raceme, people. This is a similar situation to the little blue stem. If you pulled apart these little bits right here, you'd see there's a little bit of a branch and then the spikelet. Now the last of the big four, this is one we talked about. This is the one that was on fire. This is switchgrass, Panicum virgatum. This one can get really tall. It's great for erosion control. It's the one that's hanging on by the river, and it looks awesome when it's on fire. I showed you guys. You already know that. This one also has a hint if you look at the scientific name. All right, who thinks this one is spike? How about raceme? How about panicle? Oh, you all got it. Yeah. Grass pros now. You're getting it great. Yeah, this one is sort of the textbook panicle. It's got that classic Christmas tree shape. It looks just like the picture. Very easy to figure out the inflorescence on this one. And it's called Panicum virgatum. So that is your hint for that one's panicle. So if nothing else, maybe you can remember panicle pretty well. This one is my favorite grass and my favorite plant of all, side oats grama. I don't know if y'all knew this. Maybe you did because you're master gardeners, but this is the state grass of Texas. A lot of people don't know that we have a state grass, but I love it. Sometimes when I am leading hikes with kids, I make them sing Deep in the Heart of Texas when we see this grass so that they know how awesome it is. Feel that Texas pride. You know, Oklahoma has their state grass and we have ours. This is abundant across the state. So if you learn to recognize this one, you'll start noticing your buddy side oats grandma popping up all over the place. It's a mid-sized grass, so it's not super tall, which is it's good for if you want a not super tall grass in your garden too. And it has its inflorescence. The little spikelets are coming out of the stem, and it looks like oats coming out on one side. So it's called side oats grama. Really wonderful thing, great for wildlife. And if we look here at this inflorescence, here's the culm and the spikelets coming right out of the culm. Do we think that it is a spike inflorescence? All right, how about raceme inflorescence? How about panicle inflorescence? Y'all are getting it. This one is a spike. You can see it coming right out of there. Excellent, excellent. And then I think that means 2 more. Another one of my favorites that I think is underrated. This is eastern gamma grass. A lot of people say that in Texas it should count as the big 5 rather than the big 4, and that this one should be the 5th one. It's a distant relative to corn, so you can actually take the seeds and pop them, kind of like popcorn. It doesn't make nearly as many as corn does, since humans bred corn to be what it is. This is another one that's really delicious to cows, and it's cool because it can grow in a bit more of general. It's a bit more of a generalist as far as habitat goes than those other 4. The big 4 really need it pretty sunny, but this one can go in pretty intense sun as long as it's moist, and it can go in shade. It doesn't have to be super moist, but it likes it when it's moist. So it's pretty adaptable there. Really cool one. This one is also pretty hard if you look here. And if you look here, I want you to notice we've got this male flower here, but if you look really way down here, it's got those purple bits that I showed in the beginning coming out near the bottom. So this one's confusing. You guys think spike? No hands for spike. All right. How about raceme? All right, some hands for raceme. How about panicle? Oh, we all went raceme. This one's a trick. This one is a spike-hate raceme. So this one is actually both. It's a compound between spike and raceme. Promised you I wouldn't get too much into that, but it was on one of the grasses, so it's because it's got this male bit That's spike up here, and then it's got the female bit is raceme down there. And this is where the botany starts getting over my head. Last one I want to talk to y'all about. I bet a lot of you know this guy. Yeah, inland sea oats. Oh, I'm hearing some groans on the inland sea oats. I feel sometimes it can get away from you. Don't plant it unless you really want it, yeah? But I think it's beautiful. It has too many names, though. I hear inland sea oats. I hear inland wood oats, northern wood oats. I like the name fish on a hook because it looks kind of like a little fishing line with little fishes dangling down on there. The oats historically have been used as a cereal, so that's pretty cool. I've never done it, but I need to get around to that. And yeah, this is a popular one for shade gardens, but a lot of times people don't realize that if you put it there, it's going to be the shade garden. Sounds like maybe some of y'all learned that the hard way, but it's still a really cool grass. And if you're ever hiking around in the woods in Texas, this is one you might see. So it's one to keep your eyes open for and say hello to that old friend or nemesis, depending on who it is. What do you guys think here? Spike? Anyone think spike? This is the last one too, so get it right. How about raceme? All right, and how about panicle? A couple votes for panicle, pretty spread. So this one, I feel like the botanists really tricked us. This one is technically a spike. And it looks so much to me like a raceme. I see these little branches coming out, maybe even a panicle. But apparently these branches, if you look hard at the botany, don't count as the actual branches. They're a part of the spikelet. So it's just individual spikelets coming out. That's where they are getting too fancy. And that's part of why I said the point of this isn't to necessarily be able to accurately tell each one. It's just to start having this lens, to start noticing the differences and the beauties and the intricacies of the diversity of the grasses around us. So hopefully you at least got some of that. So in conclusion, I want to say don't pass on grass. There you can see little Nathan from when I was much younger hanging out in my favorite place with some grass. Grasses, I think, are the coolest plant, and I think they're so undersung, and I think it's really a bummer that they're so unappreciated, especially in Dallas, because they're the foundation of our ecosystem. They're the foundation of so much wildlife, so many creatures, so many other plants that depend on the grasses, and then humans. Humans need these grasses to survive too. So I hope some of you today can leave as stronger grass advocates. If you're not already incorporating them in your gardens, ornamental grasses are beautiful, and they can help give habitat for things like skipper butterflies and maybe even some of those grassland birds. Happy to take any grass questions, but thank you all for having me out today. Yes, for buffalo grass, for getting buffalo grass, you can order the seeds from Native American Seed, seedsource.com, which is a company that sells native Texas plant seeds. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. And then sometimes local garden stores will have it. I know when I worked at Redenta's, we sold the Native American Seed packets of buffalo grass seeds. So she was asking about caryxes. So caryxes, and if they're beneficial, caryxes are actually sedges. So they're one of the grass-like plants that's technically not a grass, but they're still wonderful. A lot of times we've got some great native ones like the Cherokee sedge, and yeah, birds will come and eat the seeds from a lot of the sedges, and they'll use it as habitat. There are some invasive sedges, but there are a lot of native ones, so you can find out which one you have, and if it's a native one, then it's wonderful, yeah. So good question. The inspiration for this. I've loved grass for a long time, since I was in high school, and when I was in college, there'd be a lot of icebreakers, get to know yous, and so sometimes my fun fact would be that I really love grass, and people would be like, me too. And I was like, oh, no, I mean like grass, you guys. And so this was a bit of a if you can't beat them, join them, lean into it, you know. So that's where it came from. And normally I do this presentation on April 20th, 420, at the Trinity River Audubon Center, where we then also dissect some grass specimens and then go on a little walk to identify grasses. So just did that a couple days ago, but I figured this timed out well enough that it was still appropriate. Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, I can't imagine a more entertaining lecture. So everybody thank Nathan again. That was really fun. Thank you. It totally and entirely makes me feel like the coach who followed Nick Saban. So, but at least I have something kind of fun and interesting to talk about. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month, and we recognize the tireless efforts of the amazing certified Dallas County Master Gardeners, interns, and students who surpassed 400 in number. In 2024, they earned 3,582 and 3/4 education hours. The economic value of the 45,872 volunteer hours provided translates into $1,536,253.28 in benefit to our county. And we also appreciate everyone's service, and kudos to all the Dallas County Master Gardener volunteers who work so hard to educate and to serve our community. So thank you, everybody. And I'm Sarah Burke. I'm the Director at Large in charge of awards and recognition. And so we have something new to talk about. And this is kind of a good thing. On occasion, the Master Gardener Board would be approached with requests, small requests, not like to build a building, but something small, in the way of financial help. And it was recognized that this would be a good thing to do, but it needed to be equitable and it needed to not be random. So in the 2025 budget cycle, the board established the DCMGA Gift Fund. And this fund was created to provide a mechanism within the budget to give financial support to worthy individuals, groups, or even Master Gardener projects that are not otherwise supported by the organization. And this type of giving was seen as a way to increase community outreach and goodwill. And the fund was established this year with a budget of $2,000, fairly modest, and then received a wonderfully generous gift in the addition of $4,900 to the fund. A review team of Master Gardener volunteers was recruited, and an application was posted on the website. The DCMGA membership is considered the most valuable resource for recommending deserving applicants. And in the program description is on the website, and the application deadlines and the absolute requirements are also set. The first deadline was February 15th, and this was set in anticipation of spring gardening. And applications were received, and the philanthropy team reviewed these, and the first gift was awarded to the Cornerstone Community Garden. This application was submitted by Kelly Freeman, who is a 2024 Master Gardener intern. So that was very exciting, and she submitted a really fantastic application. The Cornerstone Community Garden has been in place and active since 2018. The garden is located at 5718 Hervey and currently has 65 raised beds, which have provided seasonal vegetables for the Cornerstone community, which feeds 250 to 300 people 4 times a week. The kitchen where the produce is used is literally on site. I went to photograph the garden and they said, there's the kitchen. So this would be like growing gardens in your own backyard and then taking them right into your own kitchen to cook them. Over the years, the garden has been managed by a small group of volunteers. It's under the hands-on support and guidance of Wanda Wesson. Wanda had the desire to take the garden to another level to support the community even more. In addition to growing the garden space, Wanda solicited the help of the Texas Tree Foundation, which we have an upcoming program with. And the Texas Tree Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to increasing the urban tree canopy. Wanda also worked with Grow North Texas to get all of the trees at a reduced price. And the Texas Tree Foundation planted 11 fruit trees in their garden this spring. And the Texas Tree Foundation additionally monitors the health of the trees and also provides educational information to the volunteers at the Cornerstone Community Garden. Okay, and this is Kelly and Wanda at the garden, and I thought that this one picture showed that this is really an urban garden. This is right in the middle of South Dallas. And so they've started their garden beds, and they've also started what they're calling their food forest. And the gift from our organization provided soil amendments and spring transplants for the garden area. And the timing was wonderful for this community garden because they had been notified, like so many nonprofits, that their federal funding had been frozen. So they were facing not being able to have a garden this spring, or minimal progress in growing, in developing and enlarging their garden. So the committee assessment of the Cornerstone Community Garden was that it was an ideal recipient, as they have a plan, they have excellent leadership, and they have community support to make this gift successful. This is the beginnings of their food forest, which I thought was pretty modest. There's just some little teeny tiny trees there. But Eric with the Texas Tree Foundation was out there that day, and he was staking all of these trees and also providing information on their pruning, maintenance, what to watch for and problems. So I thought that was very helpful going forward. And also, I just wanted to show there's a pin drop on the location of the garden, which shows its location. The big green area is Fair Park, so this is indeed an urban garden, and I think we should all be proud that we've chosen to support them in this small way, because it really got them off to a great start this spring. So that's it.
Our next meeting is going to be Saturday, May 17th at 11:30 back at Texas A&M AgriLife. Someone asked, why are we having them on a Saturday? We have 4 Saturday meetings scheduled this year because a lot of our master gardeners work, and so we're trying to make some dates where they can join us as well. So it's a concerted effort. We'd like to get to, 5 weekday meetings and 5 weekend meetings, but this year we can only do 4. So that's why. Just wanted to let you guys know that. And now we're going to have our plant raffle. So we want to thank Raincatcher's Garden of Midway Hills for hosting our meeting. It's been great. We appreciate all the work of everyone who showed up yesterday to help set up, and today the team who came early and helped set up. And we appreciate all of you showing up. The turnout has been really great for the meetings, and it's one of our goals to get you guys to socialize a bit, get to know each other, relax, have fun, and if you have any thoughts or ideas, let me know, Janet Lane. And just so glad to see all of you here this time. So see you next month.